What's up, everybody? It's the mid-range game, and we're back. I guess we say that every time. Because we take a little hiatus. We had multiple things going on, and we're trying to get back to a regular swing now. But this is Brent. That's my boy Dean.
We ran out of excuses, man. We finally had to do another pod together.
I know. Like, oh, we actually have some time today?
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Life.
Yeah,
And we're just going to talk about, we're not going to try to catch up on the past. I mean, we've been doing some crazy things. I was on a jury. Murder was the case that they gave me. But we may talk about that another time. But yeah, I was on a murder case, first degree murder. I was on the jury.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And by the way, during jury selection, there were two black people in the room, me and the defendant. I knew I wasn't getting out of that. My wife at break time, she was like, are you thinking I'll send you home? I was like, not a chance.
Not a chance.
Not a chance. Matter of fact, during the time where they were saying let people go, the prosecution was like, juror number such and such, you can go ahead and go home. And the defense goes, we object. They literally went in the back of the room for like 20 minutes, came back and were like, yeah, you got to stay.
There was zero chance.
Look, I picked up my stuff and was like, peace, y'all. And then they were like, no, we object. He's staying.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, there was zero chance that you were leaving. Zero chance. No. He's probably looking over at you like, please help me out, man. Please help me out. You're like, you going down one way or the other, dude.
You did it.
Yeah. So let's start with the play-in tournament. Is there anything with the current situation in the West? If the playoffs started today, it would be San Antonio versus Golden State and Portland versus Memphis. Are any of those teams do you want to see in the playoffs, or do you think could actually make some noise in the West?
Well, clearly, I want Portland over Memphis. I just think Damian Lillard in the playoffs, he's already an exciting player. And I think the playoffs need adrenaline, need a shot of some Dame time. So I want Portland going in there, especially against Phoenix in the first round. Mm-hmm. Get some Devin Booker, Chris Paul with the guys over there in Portland. That would be a good series, I think. So because Phoenix just clinched the playoff berth, they can't get out of the playoffs now if they lose out. They're second seed in the West. They actually have a chance to pass the Jazz to get first seed. Who thought that? Now, are they the best team in the West? No. But it's just impressive, very impressive, by adding Monty Williams and Chris Paul, just how different a season can be for the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, you have all that young talent with Booker, and then you add, CP3. A couple of years ago, who would have thought that he would be so important to, potential one seed in the West? I don't think anybody thought that he was going to be able to have the season he had last year with OKC, and now doing it again, kind of in the MVP conversation, at least on the list of potential candidates. But yeah, I think Phoenix will wax whoever they see in the first round with Crowder, with CP3 and all those young guns. I think it would be cool to see them in.
Portland never makes it easy for anybody though. Like they generally don't play no stick scratching. You're going to leave that fight with some marks on you. You know what I mean? A couple marks on you.
I kind of rather see Memphis just because they have so many young players and you like to get them some reps, because I think that is huge in their development. Usually that next year, we got a taste of it. Now let's see what we can do.
Jaren Jackson just came back. He has missed all season.
Yeah.
And now he's back too. So that's a good time for him to get in the swing of things.
Definitely. In the other matchup, you would have Golden State and San Antonio are the other two teams. I don't know about you, but I guess I would want to see Steph in the playoffs because, he's playing out of his mind. Either way, either of those teams is going to get waxed though. They're not going anywhere, but it'd be fun to see Steph. You agree with that?
Yeah, I'm all for Steph Curry in the playoffs. And my second point, I don't really think, just thinking draft pick wise and position in the draft, San Antonio needs that way more than Golden State does. Golden State doesn't need another lottery pick.
Right.
it's and who knows where the trade. There's so many late draft picks traded nowadays. I'm not exactly sure where or who have,
Right.
they could have different things, but uh, they just got Wiseman last year. They should have Clay next year. Hopefully, he doesn't have another weird injury.
Yeah.
So I think that Golden State will be fine next year. San Antonio needs help, even though they're doing. I mean, they're the ninth seed right now. They still need some help. So and they're not that exciting of a team. And to me, playoffs
Right.
bring the fan that kind of barely watches basketball to finally see basketball. And the bubble last year didn't get as good a ratings, but they had some very exciting games in the bubble last year. So hopefully this year they'll be able to draw more fans to watch this game, because there could be some exciting things happening in some of these very exciting players, and Steph Curry is definitely key to that.
Definitely. I mean, Steph's having another MVP quality season. I mean, he is the amount of points that he's scoring in just this month alone is like astronomical. He has to basically go for 40 or it's an automatic L, it seems like, for them.
Yeah.
So Kelly Oubre is not really
Mm,
replacing Clay that much. So
not
all
so
right.
much. And
So that
and Steph is about to set the record for 3-pointers made in the month of April or something like
yep.
that. Like he has like, I don't know how many threes he has to hit left, but it's like 10 or
Yeah.
something like that.
I'm
Or
sure
like,
he'll probably get it in the next game.
yeah.
So, all right. So let's look at matchups. So you would have right now Utah and Phoenix that could swap. I don't think either one of them is really nervous about any of those
Any of
teams.
the
Although
playoff
with
teams. Yep.
Mitchell being out, that obviously, is he going to be 100%? There's something
Right.
to go with there. So let's go to there's some juicy matchups. I think let's talk about Dallas and the Clippers. The Clippers would have the chance to exercise the demons that they had last year um, against. I mean, I know they lost against Denver, but Luca Magic in the
Yep.
first round. I think Luca would love to see them again.
For
What do you
sure.
think about that matchup against the Clippers Dallas? Any potential upset there? You think?
Um. Yeah. I mean, it shouldn't be, because the Clippers should be who they say they are and what they look like on paper. But for
Trash?
some
Oh,
reason,
okay.
look, Pandemic P. Hopefully he's post pandemic. Are we post pandemic yet? Not really, but
There's light at the end of the
there's
tunnel.
light at the end of the tunnel. P.
Yeah, yeah.
Is he like what? Who's he gonna be? I mean, what kind of player is he gonna be? I mean, I know Kawhi is a very good one-on-one player and he's a great player, but he cannot drag that team by themselves. We know Patrick Beverly is worthless on offense. I mean, I think he's not. I think he drinks his own Kool-Aid and thinks he's a better defensive player than he really is.
Hmm.
He's just a gnat on the floor. He gets under people's skin
Yep.
sometimes, but uh, it's not game changing by any means.
Yeah.
So I think the Clippers, they need really Serge Ibaka. All these guys need to really look at what happened last year and hopefully put a fire under them. They don't seem like to be playing still with one of those missions that's like,
No.
we thought we were the best team in the NBA and now we lost. Like remember when Golden State originally lost like the first time they went to the finals and everything, and the next year they were on fire through the whole season. They were just like, we are better than what we showed in the playoffs and we're going to do
Hmm.
it. But the Clippers don't seem to have that chutzpah or
Well,
whatever it
they
is.
have to hope that Rajon Rondo can be playoff Rondo, and
Yep.
I don't know when you play the way he's played this entire season that that's a realistic expectation.
Right.
He didn't play much in Atlanta. He was injured. And even last year, even though he had that major bump up in the playoffs, he still looked in incredible shape throughout the whole season. He was
Right.
up and down, but that's kind of just how Rondo is.
Right.
I don't think they addressed their biggest need by adding Rondo. I think Rondo got his chip, and yeah, he might add some leadership, but the Clippers still they still worry me. I don't know. I mean, playoff P, he's got to get out of his playoff funk in order for them to have any sort of chance. And with Dallas, it's Luca again. You want to see great players in the playoffs. I
Yep.
want to see Luca take another step. he had a slow start to the season. I think he, like a lot of other players, thought that the season was going to start later than it did, so he kind of had to work
Right.
himself into shape. And then you have Porzingis, man. It's just one injury after another. That the guy cannot stay on the court. If he
Yeah.
was 100% healthy and playing to the potential that we thought he could, I could see them upsetting the Clippers. But with Paul George and Kawhi, I see that being like a like a 4-2 type series like it was last season.
Yeah.
But I think it'll still be entertaining. Who knows, man? Dallas has a lot of offensive power, and Luka's Luka, so I guess we'll see.
Well, and
But
the playoffs are a different beast. The way they play in the regular season,
right,
Luca and them slowing it down and things like that. I think you'll see bigger performances from Luca because it's needed in the playoffs. Playoffs lift individual performances because it's so slow. Like you have to really do a little more working man on man and
right,
things like that. So
right.
hopefully they make that a good series. I got no love for the Clippers, honestly, just because of their attitudes. They just walk around like last year they thought literally they could just walk their way to the finals.
I do
And
think I agree with that. Yeah. And I don't think they needed a point guard. And although I have respect for Rondo, he's not what he used to be. And yeah, I don't see he'll have to have a huge playoffs for them to make a real run.
right.
But let's move on to the other kind of mid tier, which the Lakers and Denver.
Mm,
Denver, we're in Colorado Springs, so it's a lot easier for us to follow them closely. Jokic is the likely MVP candidate, but
killing
it's
it.
still sad because you have Murray out, and that just kind of deflates the whole thing. You might have a
Does.
good playoff performance by Porter Jr. He's coming along nicely. He's looking great, but Barton got hurt again, and without Murray, it's just a bummer because I thought they were a real contender to win the whole
Yeah.
thing this year, and instead they become, to me, the perfect tuna for the Lakers if they're fully healthy. If
Yeah.
LeBron comes back with what they got 10 games left, if he comes back and can get his legs underneath him, kind of like in the bubble,
Yeah.
just kind of rev it up. I think that that's going to be huge for the Lakers and kind of the perfect situation for them to be in. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. The Lakers, like we were talking about off air, the how the Lakers kind of went through the bubble with the most ease. I think out of all the teams, they had a couple knockout dragouts, but for the most part, what they do, gentlemen sweeps, like just one game per.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the thing is that like everybody just wanted to, they were the best team. I mean,
Well, yeah,
that,
but everybody, the other teams are. To my point, their other teams are going full 7 game series, waiting
right,
for and while the Lakers are kind of like chilling, like, well, we got some rest because
right,
this other team that we're gonna play is going 7 games. So that if they have to play Denver in the first round with them missing Murray and possibly Barton and things like that, I assume that's probably going to happen in the first round for them. As good as Denver is, and as good as Jokic is, you're not going to beat the Lakers without your second best player. It's just it's just not
yeah,
going to
it's
happen.
gonna be rough. If LeBron's healthy, AD's getting back in the swing of things. They could potentially fall, but honestly, like Dallas hasn't taken advantage of the situation. They've
Yeah,
lost some games that they should have won, or else they could have gone up against Denver instead and pushed the Lakers down to the Clippers, which is still a possibility. But with LeBron
right,
coming back, I don't see it. I think LeBron and the Lakers in general are probably smart enough to be like, this is exactly where we want to be. So
right.
let's make sure we win enough games to stay here. But that's a real bummer for Denver. I really thought they were going to be championship contenders, but instead it
Mm,
looks like they'll be a tune-up for the Lakers to get ready for the
yeah, I
second
mean,
round.
only thing that Denver can hope for is that they can push, and like the Clippers lost to Phoenix last night, and Denver's only hope is that even without Murray, that they can win these last as many games as they can and swap places
Denver,
uh
yeah.
with the Clippers,
Yeah.
and then that way they'd be playing Dallas, and Clippers would play the Lakers in the first round.
And I think the Clippers would, give the Lakers all they could handle. But the interesting thing about that is that if they were to go out in the first round, It would just be tragic. I mean, Kawhi could potentially, I don't think he will, but he could potentially be like, all right, deuces.
Now, like Paul George got an extension, right?
Hmm.
But
But
Kawhi did.
not Kawhi.
So this is Kawhi's technically last year. He just signed a 2-year contract.
Yeah,
So
he's gonna ask somebody
Kawhi
else for a
technically.
private plane for him and his uncle so they can fly around.